This Denver Broncos rookie is turning heads over at Dove Valley, and some jobs might be on the line because of it. When Sean Payton went to evaluate Blake Watson, the running back out of Memphis, he was impressed with what he saw, especially with Watson's receiving acumen. Bringing in this article from Mile High Huddle, I watched him, Payton said, then I'd like to throw it to him. So Payton really liked what Watson brought to the table as a receiver. He's somebody who's just 5'9" and 186 pounds, but he caught over 40 balls for Memphis last year for nearly 500 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He caught balls from not only out of the backfield, but also split out as a slot receiver. Payton, without a doubt, took note of that and maybe views him as a potential joker in this offense. We talk about jokers in Payton's offense all the time, somebody who can fill multiple different roles and isn't tied to just one position on the field. Look, we use that term joker a little bit. That was one of the traits, though, that stood out. He was one of those guys, again, in the 7th round, 6th round, but we saw a player that was natural catching the ball. That was a big draw. When we read a player, that's a draw to his vision. What's the vision? So we're learning more about him, Payton said of Watson. But whenever you see a receiving running back that's tied to Sean Payton, you're naturally going to think about Alvin Kamara, one of the best receiving backs in the game, who Sean Payton drafted in the 3rd round out of Tennessee in 2017. I'm not making the comparisons, but when we drafted Kamara, we saw that vision, but we didn't realize the other things in the running game. The first handoff in the preseason, I think against the Chargers, he went 52 yards for a touchdown, and we were like, man, we can hand the ball off to him. But if you ask me the traits that attracted us to Blake, it was certainly that we saw in the passing game, and you saw pretty good football IQ too. If Watson is able to translate his running skills and make them up there with his receiving skills, then he could be a dynamic threat for the Denver Broncos. You could also think about somebody who's Darren Sproles' size, who is also kind of that explosive. You don't really see him coming out of the backfield just because of how small he is. That could be more of a role that suits Blake Watson more so compared to a guy like Alvin Kamara. That just makes a little bit more sense both to me as well as whoever wrote this article for Mile High Huddle. Let's see, who was it? Was it Chad? Yeah, it was Chad Jensen who wrote this article for Mile High Huddle. So yeah, it looks like Chad and I are kind of both on the same page there when it comes for a vision for a Blake Watson. Because of Watson's receiving acumen, that could put the Denver Broncos' primary receiving back in Samaje Perine on notice. Samaje Perine had almost identical receiving stats to Blake Watson last year. It's pretty crazy when you put them side by side. The stats were almost identical. But the difference between a Perine and a Watson is the size. Perine is, I believe, 50 pounds heavier than Watson is, and he's a couple inches taller as well. Perine's that bigger body that you can trust on 3rd down situations as a pass-protecting running back. Naturally, with Watson's smaller frame, he's going to struggle with that. So that is the sacrifice that you would have to make if you were to go with Blake Watson over a Samaje Perine. Perine could save you $3.5 million if he were released, but again, you're probably letting go of your best pass-protecting running back. Maybe if Javonte Williams is able to stay healthy and showcase that his burst and explosiveness is back, you could trust him on those 3rd down passing situations as a pass-protecting running back, with that threat still being there of him splitting out on like a Texas route or a swing route or something of that nature. That threat would still need to be there in order for Javonte Williams to see the field on 3rd down. That would make more sense if the Broncos were to move on from a guy like Samaje Perine. Then you have to think about somebody like Jaleel McLaughlin. I was reading an article from Mike Kliss today from 9 News who was talking about the role for players in OTAs, and Jaleel McLaughlin's name came up as the same niche role that he filled last year, kind of being used on swing routes, flare routes, but you couldn't utilize him on passing situations, clear passing situations on 3rd down. So when we look at a possible competition between Blake Watson and Jaleel McLaughlin, what could be the driving factor in picking a winner between those two players is which player offers more as a receiving back, and that award might go to Blake Watson because of his ability to split out as a slot receiver. That's not something you can really do with Jaleel McLaughlin. McLaughlin is somebody who kind of is set to fill that niche role. That came up again in that Mike Kliss article, that he just might be that swing route, Texas route guy out of the backfield that you can't really depend on as a pass protecting back. That pigeonholed him into a smaller role in 2023, and unfortunately that could find himself off the roster in 2024 if Blake Watson is as advertised. I'm saying that as somebody who is the self-proclaimed president of the Jaleel McLaughlin fan club, if you have seen any of my work on Denver Broncos Syndicate as well as the MHRT network. All right, Broncos country, I am curious. What do you guys think Blake Watson is going to be able to become at the NFL level? What role do you think he's going to be able to carve out for himself? Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out, and it helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.